to do the soft power K, the reformist K, then pipelines and prisons on this.
Soft power, prisons, soft power, reformism, prisons, neolib.
Neolib before prisons.
Okay.
Is that for the camera? Is that for the camera?
Mm-mm. Okay.
First, for the soft power K, ours is a conditional argument. First, I have to say that we have to account for all the soft power we create. However, that's not true. In order to show that, they need to have a stronger link. The link that they should have between soft power and their final impact is extremely attenuated. There's no reason to believe that a small increase in soft power would create anything like the kind of destruction that they talk about. Whereas we have concrete, realistic links between the inaction of the plan and stopping a dependency pipeline, which could kill hundreds of thousands of people a year, and a prison system, which is a major mechanism in oppressing racial minorities. You cannot take you cannot weigh their impact over ours. In order to measure it as probable, you would have to take this attenuated link of inferences, which take us from a small increase, from a small change in the U.S.'s reputation around the world to eventual global war. However, if you reject that argument, we would still say that hegemony is not a product of a desire for imperialism. It's an improvement to costly delays in power projection that killed millions during World War I and II. So they're forgetting long-term history. In the U.S. presence, because is a key peacekeeping presence around the world, and it's proven key for decades of peace. To show that, Kagan 2011. In the 20s, the U.S. allowed the great European powers to balance one another, wound up intervening with millions of troops in Europe and Asia and Europe in the two most dreadful wars in human history. It was with the memory of those two wars, the American statements determined the new global strategy that the U.S. pursued ever since. The safest course was to build the situations of strength in strategic locations around the world, with American power at the center. They left substantial troops in East Asia and Europe and built a global governing system of naval and air bases to enable rapid projection. They did not do this out of a yearning for global domination. They simply adopted the offshore balancing strategy because they believed it had led to great wars in the past and would again. Their new strategy was more likely to deter major war and be less destructive and expensive in the long run. It is precisely the success of this strategy that is taken for granted. The enormous benefits never appear on the ledger. The global security order the U.S. has sustained since World War II has prevented the prevention of major war, the support of open trading system, and promotion of liberal principles of free market and government. The past 6 decades have seen a greater increase in global prosperity than any time in U.S. history. Hundreds of millions have been lifted out of poverty. Once backwards nations have become iconic dynamos. The U.S. economy has on the whole benefited immensely, maintaining a successful military capacity, has helped produce a peaceful end to the Cold War, then more than 20 years of great peace. Strategy far outweighs the cost. The danger is that we don't even realize the benefits our strategic choices have provided. It is tempting to believe the international order the U.S. built can exist in the absence of power. This is a great illusion. So even if you were to accept their link, there's an impact churn in this case because we have no reason to believe that global order wouldn't crumble without the U.S. peacekeeping presence. It's nice and idealistic to believe that the world would be able to maintain a peaceful order. However, history has shown that when the U.S. has receded into isolationism, such as we did before World War II, it creates an opening for the kind of unrest we saw during World War II. Minorities are persecuted, and in that case, we saw the genocide of 12 million people. Onto the reformism, okay. So their argument is that marijuana can't be legalized if it is legalized by the government. It has to be legalized by a kind of ground-up movement. First of all, they don't talk about how this could happen. If for legalization to occur, the government would have to validate this legalization. But furthermore, despite their arguments, legalizing is not an increase in government control. It is a recognition by the government of its inability to control everybody. If you wanted to accept their argument that security and control by the government is bad, then you could apply a permutation. Accept the plan but reject security and control. Or accept the plan and accept the plan but acknowledge that the government, by doing so, is relinquishing security and control rather than gaining it. Or accept the plan and reject security and control in all other instances. All of these would be preferable because they would avoid the adverse impacts seen by our on-case strategies. But he also said that we couldn't, that our invocation of the prison system is a scare tactic. However, applying this logic would greatly inhibit our process to assess the world of the plan. We cannot avoid any negative impact that a policy might have if that negative impact is scary to anyone. Racism appropriately invokes fear because it is something that should be feared. Racism is a terrible system. However, we're not in any way monopolizing that fear or contorting it for our advantage. We are simply saying that it's something that needs to be addressed. Their entire argument seems to be that we should ignore the opportunity for progress in all forms unless it completely solves the problem. In this case, we should ignore the opportunity to dismantle an element of the racist structure because it doesn't completely solve racism. However, progress would completely be shunted if it didn't solve, if wherever it left any problems left to be solved. We would look at the Brand 2010 approach, brick by brick, stone by stone. Every great advance in history has left more problems left to solve, but that doesn't mean it wasn't worth solving. It wasn't worth taking that step. Onto the dependency pipeline. They dropped our dependency argument essentially. They never argued that if we didn't adopt the plan, states wouldn't adopt marijuana in a commercialized manner. There's no mechanism for stopping states from doing so. Constitutionally, if the government doesn't take action now, states can do it however they want, and they would do it in a commercialized manner. They said that we haven't specified that our plan wouldn't include advertisements. However, that's simply not true. We said that our plan would be non-commercial regulation. In a non-commercial system, there's no need for advertisement because there's no profit. There's no profit-making mechanism. Nobody is doing this for a profit, so there would be no reason for anybody to advertise. It would be run by the state or run by non-profit entities. They also read a Calhoun card that talked about which apparently read for the net. However, if you look at the end of the card, you see that's not true. Calhoun 14. Legalization functions as an opposition to continued state violence against drug users and possessors. A holdback of even worse oppression. In order to delegitimize street dealers, we have to treat them as inherently dangerous. This is the current direction of the marijuana movement. It moves towards centralization and inclusion. This can be changed by fully humanizing and recognizing as innocent anyone accused of a drug crime. And as on to prisons, as I said before, it's important that we extend all prisons arguments. It's important to dismantle the racist structure in any way that we can. You could permute their alternative by educating people about racism and accepting the plan.
How much have you left?
You